So what does it take to change someone who seems, well, completely unreachable? Today, we're going to dive into a short but honestly super powerful Buddhist story. It's called the Sutra of Lady Yu-ye, and trust me, it's this incredible tale of arrogance, a mind-blowing divine intervention, and a lesson about how someone can totally transform in a single jaw-dropping moment.
All right, so let's set the scene. We're going back to ancient India, to the home of a guy named Anāthapiṇḍika. Now, this man was seriously wealthy, a well-respected patron of the Buddha, but, he had this one huge problem that all his money just couldn't fix. And this problem, it was living right there under his own roof.
So, what was the problem? Well, it was his son's new wife, Yu-ye. And listen, Yu-ye was famous for her beauty, but her personality? Totally the opposite. She was arrogant, dismissive, basically treated her new husband and his parents with zero respect. Her attitude was just toxic. It was poisoning the whole vibe of the house.
Anāthapiṇḍika was completely stuck. I mean, what do you do in that situation? He knew he couldn't just let this go on, but he also knew that, using a stick or getting harsh wasn't the right way to handle it. But if he did nothing, her behavior would just get worse and worse every day. He was in a real bind, totally at a loss.
So, when you're faced with a problem that feels absolutely impossible, where do you turn? Well, you go to the ultimate teacher, right? Anāthapiṇḍika realized this whole thing was way out of his league. He decided there was only one person on earth with the kind of wisdom and compassion to maybe, just maybe, get through to Yu-ye, the Buddha.
So the very next morning, Anāthapiṇḍika goes to see the Buddha. He lays it all out, explains the whole messy situation, and invites him to his home. And the Buddha, seeing how serious this was, accepts. You could say a house call of pretty divine proportions was about to happen.
Okay, so the Buddha arrives. The entire family comes out to greet him, full of respect and reverence, everyone, except one person. You guessed it, Yuji. In her incredible pride, she just refuses to leave her room. I mean, think about that. Even with the most enlightened being on the planet standing in her house, she's still defiant, absolutely.
But the Buddha, well, he wasn't going to be stopped by a locked door or a bad attitude. Instead of getting angry or trying to force his way in, he decides to use a much more unconventional approach, a different kind of teaching method. He taps into his divine powers.
And in a flash, the entire house turns into shimmering, transparent crystal, just like that. No more walls, no rooms, no barriers. Everything is see-through. Suddenly, Yu-ye is totally exposed with absolutely nowhere to hide, and she can see the Buddha standing right there in all his radiant glory.
Wow, I mean, can you imagine? This incredible and honestly terrifying sight just completely shatters her arrogance. Poof, gone. The sheer power of what she's seeing leaves her totally awestruck. She's humbled, she's scared, and she immediately rushes out to bow before the Buddha. All that pride she had, vanished.
Okay, so now that he finally has her full attention, the Buddha begins his lesson. And you know what? It wasn't a scolding. It wasn't an I told you so. It was a clear, direct teaching about what true beauty really is and what it means to be a good wife.
He starts with this incredibly powerful idea that probably just flipped her whole world upside down. He tells her, look, a woman isn't beautiful because of her face. True beauty, he says, comes from having an upright heart and doing the right thing. He's completely shifting the focus, right? From the outside to the inside.
Then the Buddha gets really specific. He lays out some super clear guidelines. He talks about the 5 good things a wife should do. Things like being diligent, getting up early, being faithful. And he contrasts that with the 3 bad things, like being lazy, disrespectful, or even wishing her husband harm. It's like he's giving her a simple, direct moral roadmap.
But he didn't stop there. This wasn't just about a list of rules. He did something even more powerful. He presented her with a choice, 7 different types of wives, 7 distinct paths she could choose to walk down, starting right then and there.
Yep, 7 paths, 7 choices. The Buddha was making it crystal clear, no pun intended, that her future was entirely in her hands. He wasn't commanding her, he was empowering her to choose who she wanted to be.
So first, he lays out the 5 positive models. He says she could be like a mother to her husband, caring and protective, or like a sister, respecting him. She could be like a friend, a real confidant. She could be what he called the wife, fulfilling her duties with grace. Or, finally, she could be like a servant, serving him with deep humility and loyalty. Each one is a different way to create a harmonious home. But then, of course, he presented the negative options, and they get pretty intense. The first one he calls the enemy wife. This is a wife who sees her husband with pure hatred. She's unfaithful, brings shame on the family, and literally curses him, wishing he were dead. A truly destructive path.
And then he describes the most extreme, the most terrifying path of all, the life-taking wife. This one goes way beyond just hatred. This is a wife who is actively plotting to get rid of her husband. We're talking poison, hiring an assassin, whatever it takes, just so she can be free to remarry. I mean, this is the absolute total breakdown of a relationship.
So there it is. The stage is set. The 7 paths, 5 good ones, 2 truly terrible ones, have been laid out right in front of her. And now comes the moment of truth, the most important moment. Ye has to choose.
The Buddha just looks at her and asks the simple, powerful question, of these 7, which will you be? And the genius of that question is that it puts all the responsibility, all the power, right back on her. He's not telling her what to do. He's asking her who she is going to choose to become. And her answer, wow, it was a complete 180-degree transformation. In tears, she looks at him and doesn't just pick a good option. She picks the most humble one of all. She says, from this day on, I will serve my husband as a servant wife for the rest of my life, and I will not dare to be arrogant. Just incredible.
And just to prove this wasn't just some emotional outburst, that she really meant it, she immediately asks to take the 10 precepts of a lay Buddhist. Promising not to kill, not to steal, not to lie, and so on. But taking on this formal commitment, she was basically sealing the deal, showing everyone that this change was real, it was deep, and it was for good.
So, what's the big takeaway from this ancient story? I think it's way more than just a tale about a difficult daughter-in-law. It's a really powerful lesson in psychology, right? It shows that maybe, just maybe, the best way to help someone change isn't by arguing with them or forcing them. Sometimes, the real catalyst is just holding up a mirror and showing them with crystal clarity the different people they could be. Here's the path of harmony, and here's the path of destruction. Now, you choose. It really makes you think, doesn't it? In the conflicts we have in our own lives, are we just arguing the point, or are we actually offering a clear choice?